Hello. Well, they call it the season of mists and mellow fruitfulness. We've certainly got the mists, but there's nothing about the next 8 days of racing which will be remotely mellow. The Tour of Britain is about to launch itself once again onto British roads, bigger, brasher, bolder, and ever so slightly wetter than ever before. Reborn in 2004, the Tour of Britain has now established itself on the national sporting calendar. Big names, tough routes, top teams. The race grows year on year in scale, ambition and class, even if its quintessential Britishness is never too far beneath the surface. And as the Tour gains in stature, so the crowds swell. Last year they lined the route in their hundreds of thousands up and down the land. Chris Sutton struck early for Oz and for Garmin, his last win before joining up with Sky. Then Kai Royce broke away heroically to take the race lead just months after a serious head injury had nearly cost him his life. And who can forget Thomas de Gendt, the ravenous Belgian on the move.
This is an attack unfurling already, and we've barely covered 500 metres.
Oh look, it's this man again, Thomas de Gendt.
You just cannot contain him.
His appetite for points was insatiable. And 2009 saw the first British stage win for 2 years, Ben Swift's maiden pro victory into Yeovil. Before Barlow World's Michele Merlo stole the limelight in London. But with 4 stage wins, the Tour belonged to one team and to one Norwegian.
It's the team of Colombia on the front, beginning to lift the tempo here. And here he comes, look at this now, the awesome power of the Norwegian. It's Boasson Hagen. There is just no holding this man. He's unbelievable.
Well, that was Edvald Boasson Hagen back in London last year in the sunshine, as far as I recall. Graham Jones, route director of the Tour of Britain. Where's the sun gone? What are you going to do about it?
Well, I'm hoping it's going to get better as the week goes on. I think the forecast is for it to improve, and unfortunately it's a bad start today, but you know, it could make for good racing.
It'll make for interesting racing indeed, just like last year. And what were your highlights thinking back to last year's race?
I think the main one for me was it was just that the Tour took another level up in terms of the class of field and the racing, and the crowd levels were fantastic, and obviously last year Boasson Hagen was phenomenal.
Now, your role is slightly different this year because you're going to be co-commentating alongside Hugh Porter. Are you looking forward to that?
Yeah, I am doing it. It's a little bit different for me. It's going to make a long day, but you know, it should be good.
Bit tougher, bit harder, bit lumpier this route?
It is. I think one of the things that came out of last year from the teams was a little bit of criticism of the fact that we needed really a couple of tough stages. But last year the race was controlled by the stronger teams. But I think this year we've got a couple of belting stages.
There are indeed a couple of belting stages, a couple of tough ones as well. I know, because I've ridden one of them. Let's have a look at the whole of the route. So it all begins in Rochdale then, before heading to Stoke, into South Wales, and then hitting the bottom left-hand corner. Then after 2 days in the southwest, it's up to Norfolk, a debut on the Tour, before heading via Colchester to London's Docklands. If you kind of tilt your head and squint, you'll see it sort of moves anti-clockwise around the country. Yeah, that's the route of the Tour of Britain 2010, and this man sitting here in the dry alongside me is Dean Downing, the veteran, the legendary Dean Downing. 3 Tours of Britain, and now you're lucky man, you get to drive alongside me for the rest of the week.
Yeah, driving, I'm not sure if I'm going to be driving then.
Oh, you're not?
You can
oh,
do
brilliant,
all
well now he tells me.
You can do all that, yeah, but I'm with yourself. I'm not riding this year, so which I'm happy about, because as we know, it's raining.
I was going to say, you were never one for the rain, were you?
I hate rain.
Yeah.
I hate racing in the rain, I hate training in the rain, so I'm happy to be indoors having a coffee with yourself. So.
Absolutely. Now, listen, this morning over breakfast, I chucked a race manual in your direction. I know you've had a little chance to look at the various peaks and troughs of what they've got to come over the next week. What struck you in particular?
Well, today's stage is flat, but it's quite windy and raining outside, so
could be a bit tasty.
Could be a bit tasty at the end into Blackpool, and then stages 3 and 4 are going to be tough. We've got Constitution Hill in Swansea. Finish, that's going to be a hard finish.
Yeah, that's kind of 300 metres of cobbled climb, isn't it? So
yeah,
that someone might make a move there.
Something that I wouldn't like.
You would hate it.
I would hate something like that going up there. But then stage 4 is small roads, small sharp climbs, but also long climbs. So that's going to be interesting if some of the big teams get in there and get stuck in and race hard.
So there could be a break that will win the race on those, but on the other hand, very often the Tour of Britain is decided simply on sprints and time bonuses, isn't it?
Yeah, over the years the Tour of Britain has been decided on both those. A group of 20 riders with all teams represented mightn't go up the road, and that would be it. Bunch will shut down and cruise along, but then also you've got some big sprinters here this year, so every stage could be a sprint stage.
Yeah, it's a mystery.
Anything can happen.
Absolutely. Unlike the Tour de France, the Tour of Britain is extremely hard to call. That's enough about the tarmac. What about the men who are going to ride over it? Brad Wiggins is in town again, smarting from a disappointing summer. The national time trial champion has a point or two to prove to the home crowd.
I've got a bit of a love-hate relationship with this race, but you know, it's I love coming here for the fans and everything, and obviously after the Tour de France all they want to do is see us in the flesh, and it's a great opportunity for everyone.
Team Sky have brought along Geraint Thomas, Steve Cummings and the pugnacious and in-form Russell Downing, who many people fancy for the win, including probably Russell Downing. Columbia, as ever, have a strong look to them. Andre Greipel will head the charge to the line for the sprints. The brilliant Tony Martin, Germany's national time trial champion, will be their man for the overall win. Garmin feature the young Aussie brothers Cameron and Travis Meyer, but on paper at least they'll be riding to get the Irishman Dan Martin the win, a man in the form of his life. Saxo Bank come to the party with Richie Port, who wore the Maglia Rosa in the Giro d'Italia for 3 days this year. And Cervelo welcome back Roger Hammond to these shores. The veteran Brit will be looking for a third stage win in this race 4 years after his last.
Yeah, it's a couple of years since I was last here, but yeah, I've won a couple of stages here, so yeah, it's always nice to come home.
And apart from Team Sky, there are 6 homegrown teams taking part, all of whom were introduced to the good people of Blackpool last night. Of course, it is all about producing a British winner of the Tour of Britain, isn't it, Dean? We haven't had one since about 1908, I think.
1908, that's a long time ago, yeah.
No, joking apart, Team Sky are under enormous amount of pressure to deliver one for this country and for this race, aren't they?
Yeah, they're under some pressure to win the Tour of Britain. It's a massive race nowadays, and they've got 4 Brits out of 6 riders, so yeah, they've got a good chance. Steve Cummings, of course, has finished 2nd in the Tour of Britain. They've got Geraint Thomas, fabulous early season he had. Bradley Wiggins, disappointing so far. He's got a point to prove, hasn't he? Yeah, they've all got points to prove, and I think there's another rider in there who's a British rider as well.
Who's that?
He's got the same surname as me, I think.
That's right, Russell Downing, yeah. For those of you who don't know, and I'm sure you do, Russ Downing is Dean's brother. And look, joking apart, he's got a live chance of winning this race. He's in fabulous form, isn't he?
Yeah, Team Sky will be supporting one rider. We're not quite sure who that'll be, but you know, if it's Russ, then he'll be happy with that, and he'll be going for the victory. He has a great season, 4 wins already, so he'll be looking forward to the challenge.
Dozens and dozens of other British riders, of course, involved on other teams, and we'll come to them throughout the week, I'm sure. But if it isn't going to be a Brit, give us a name. Who's it going to be?
Last year's was a sprint race, every stage sprinting, and Bossenhagen was the winner. So I'm going Greipel. If he gets over the climbs, he's a fantastic sprinter. He's got to get over the climbs.
Yeah, the gorilla. A big frame to lug over them, isn't it? Absolutely, yeah. Well, indeed, it might well be a day for Andre Greipel today on that flat run-in into Blackpool. Stay with us, join us after the break, watch the adverts, sit back, but be sure to be there when we get the race underway. Well, the rain has eased up, even if the dark clouds are still overhead, but that hasn't stopped a big crowd turning up here in Rochdale town centre. Let's see exactly what awaits the peloton between this start point and the finish line in Blackpool. Stage 1 doesn't hang around before it makes itself felt, with the testing climb to Deer Play Moor coming just 24 kilometres into the route. Then it bumps around over the Lancashire Fells before sprinting for the coast and the distant lights of Blackpool, where Roger Hammond will remember winning 5 years ago. 132 kilometres then, half lumpy, half lightning fast. It may look pretty, it is pretty. The Lancashire Fells tick most of the boxes for outdoorsy types, and don't let the Pendle Witches spoil it for you. Apparently they moved out years ago. You'll probably find them topping the bill at a Blackpool beer show, the town which still boasts sun, seaside, sand and probably sausages if you look hard enough. Oh, and did I mention the tower? Well, of course, plenty of good stuff has come out of Rochdale down the years. Lisa Stansfield, Gracie Fields and Bill Oddie, to name but 3. But nothing quite like the sight of 166 men in figure-hugging lycra who've got nothing better to do for the coming week than win the Tour of Britain. Let's join your commentators, Hugh Porter and Graham Jones.
Stage 1 of the Tour of Britain, starting from Rochdale. Ahead of them 82 miles. It's going to take them to Blackpool. 102 riders made up of 17 teams and a very, very talented peloton as well. Probably the strongest lineup we've had so far in the Tour of Britain, Graham.
It is actually, it's certainly in terms of the teams that we've got lined up, and there are some great individual riders in the peloton.
Now, what about today? The fact that they're going to be wearing racing capes, road conditions are going to be dangerous, aren't they?
They are. I think the forecast is for showers and drier spells, and we'll just have to see how that goes. But it could play a part in the descents and be a little bit tricky for them.
And of course, it's a course that starts through the southern Pennine Moors. We've got a gentle climb coming in the early stages, but then they've got the famous Trough of Bowland as they nearer to Blackpool.
Yeah, that's a familiar climb in the northwest of England, Trough of Bowland. It's a lot of times it's been included in the Tour of Britain, and see a couple of British riders there. Geraint Thomas, the national champion, talking to Roger Hammond.
Yeah, Roger Hammond, of course, a former junior world cyclocross champion. Look at this, Bradley Wiggins. The face tells you all, doesn't it? The weather, well, it's really peppering down.
It certainly is. That is a really heavy shower. We haven't seen better the rain there from Dan Martin.
Dan Martin just went through the screen, a member of the Garmin squad. What a season he's had, a winner of the Tour of Poland. He must be licking his lips at the thought of the climb of Constitution Hill down there in Swansea. Well, there'll be no opportunity here for a pedestrian pace because the first of the intermediate sprints today takes place just after 1 mile. So the teams will be conscious of that because there will be time bonuses available and they'll be trying to get their sprinters to the front.
Yeah, and this Norden, it's particularly, I think it's probably the earliest I've ever actually put a sprint in any stage of the Tour of Britain.
Look at the weather conditions now, and the field already thinning out, so the pressure's being applied at the front, and they're starting to wind it up on the front already. The teams who want to try and score points for the competition of the intermediate sprint, and remember there's time bonuses as well, 3, 2 and 1 over the line, but recognition here is the problem, Graham. I'm just trying to work out who's who in their racing capes, but you can work it out that people like Blackpool, Downing, Henderson, all these guys will be trying to figure in the sprint.
Yeah, it certainly is, and I think I did see Russell Downing going for that sprint there, but I think it might be a difficult one for the judges here. A lot of riders are still wearing gilets or raincoats, so I hope they've got the numbers exposed.
And of course that'll keep some of the rain out and also keep the wind out. But there is Russell Downing, and I can confirm the result of sprint 1, and Downing is going to be very pleased because he was judged to be over the line first, so he gets 5 points and 3 seconds. Greipel, the German, the powerhouse who's got more wins than any other pro this year, was second, and in third place was a fellow German, Martin Reimer, and he also is a strong finisher.
Yeah, we're just starting to see 1 or 2 riders trying to attack. We're now on the it's a bit of a drag just immediately after the first sprint. It's not a king of the mountains, but it can hurt, and I think the wind, it's also very windy today, and that could also play a part with crosswinds. And
the other thing about today, Graham, because the roads are heavy and the conditions are pretty grim, apart from the classified climbs, it's heavy going all day, isn't it? And we've got a couple trying to go away here.
Yeah, they've got about 50 metres lead over the peloton, which is starting to string out already, and I think the crosswinds there are certainly playing a part as well as the hill.
Well, the first climb in the King of the Mountains competition actually comes after 15.2 miles. Now that's a rider from Vacon-Soleil on the left, quite a tall, rangy rider, and it looks as though he's got somebody going with him from Saxo Bank. We'll confirm numbers in a moment, but it's only about 25 to 30 metres, and behind they look undecided.
Yes, there's 1 or 2 riders that are sort of going across in 1s and 2s, or at least trying to close the gap, and we'll just see the peloton still not really distanced at all at the moment.
It's one of those moments, isn't it, whether shall we or shan't we, but now it's knitting together, and we've got 3 riders who look as though they're going to start to work together. It's still the big, tall Vacon-Soleil rider, and I tell you what, that man at the front on the right looks a little bit like Richie Porte to me on the Saxo Bank squad.
It does, yes. It's and also, is that Jack Bauer? I think might have just got across to them, a rider we're familiar with.
It is Jack Bauer, good spot. He's the current Kiwi champion. That's why he's wearing those national colours. And now they are starting to get together and put the hammer down here. now, and there, in fact, it's confirmed for us the composition of this leading group. Now then, what generally happens when you get 3 riders starting to work, the field will look at that and probably think, well, have we got any danger men to worry about? And you may well find that the big teams will sit up and they may just be given their head here.
Yeah, it's a little bit difficult trying to predict on the first day. I think, especially with the weather conditions, I think the teams are all going to be a little bit cautious today. I mean, the race is 8 days long, so they won't want to be taking too many risks, and we'll just see how this breakaway develops. It's still only about 100 metres or so.
It is. It's pegged at the moment, isn't it? They still haven't allowed their freedom, but we'll see. It's one of those early developments, and if you look now, to me, it appears that the peloton are now starting to ease back.
Yeah, I think the gap had just gone up to about 200 metres, and these 3 riders are starting to work very well together.
And we can actually give you 1 or 2 performances of these riders to underline the quality of them. The man at the front, Richie Porte, really has been one of the finds of the season this year. He wore the pink jersey as the leader of the Tour of Italy early on, and he could be one of the strong drivers. Now there on the front looks a little bit like Bradley Wiggins to me of the Sky team, just at rest. I think they're probably happy with this development.
Yes, I mean, break of only 3 riders should be fairly easy for the big teams to control, and we may well just see this breakaway start to pull away.
And you can see the sign on the right there. That tells us that this is the start of the first climb of the day. It's only a 3rd cat affair, Deer Play more, but these are all wearing down climbs.
Yeah, it's not a particularly difficult climb. It's pretty much a long drag, and then just before the summit there's a very sharp left-hand turn with about 300 metres to go to the top of the climb, but not a difficult climb by any means.
Well, a little bit of a break there amongst the 3, but it's Richie Porte, the Australian, who's the man licking his lips here on the climb, and he is contributing to the pace significantly near the front. And he's a man that I think we can look out for in the Commonwealth Games and the World Championships later this year. Well, I'm pleased to say the sky is getting a little lighter, and it's an opportunity to take the racing capes off.
Yes, it's good to see also there that they're taking the opportunity to, as you say, take their capes off and maybe their gilets, but it also shows that the peloton has eased up and is quite happy to see this breakaway gain some time.
Well, you did say it's an easy climb, this, Graham, but it is forcing riders to get out of the saddle, and it was actually Porte that was dancing on the pedals there, the Australian. Just no doubt stretching the legs a little bit, but look at the crowd that have turned up to see this. The Tour of Britain is really catching the imagination of the followers.
Yes, and it's particularly in the weather that we've got today, it's good to see such a great crowd coming out.
So Porte of Australia, the man who seems very keen to get on with it. Look at that for an advantage, just over 4 minutes. That's a useful advantage, isn't it, to have got already? And we're still so early in the race.
Yeah, the gap's gone up there very quickly, the peloton easing up, and I think we'll see that gap now just maintained by the peloton. Well, that's what I would expect to happen today, and we might see them gain even more time yet.
Well, he's the sprint then for the points. They're going to go straight through the corridor of people on the top, and fans I should say, but it's the Dutchman actually that looks to have the better legs. Yes, Wouter Pauwels of the Netherlands, and Vakon Soleil takes the maximum points at the top from Porte, and Bauer in 3rd position. There's still 1 point available for the first man from the peloton to reach the summit.
Yeah, Bauer just losing contact with the other 2 over that climb, so he's got to get back on pretty quickly.
And time for these 2 to get their 2nd win. Porte on the left, just having a quick word there with Pauwels. It's a new name to me, actually, Graham.
Yes, and for me, and I think they're probably having a quick word there to say I think we should wait for the other guy. It might be useful over the rest of the course.
Certainly makes a bit of sense, doesn't it? 3 riders knitting together, swapping the turns evenly, certainly better than 2. But just look at that for a shot. Fantastic reservoir.
Yeah, great scenery despite the very bad conditions today.
Porte on the left here then, eager to get on with it, and Pauwels as they just go across that cattle grid. You've always got to hit those at the right angle, otherwise you could have all sorts of problems. But at the moment the 3rd place rider is still distanced. That's Bauer. He needs to get up there and make the junction.
Yes, he does, and they need to get back together and really get back into the rhythm of riding together and try and make this gap grow even bigger.
There's a long way to go though on this stage to Blackpool. We've been to Blackpool of course several times, haven't we, on the Tour of Britain. In fact, I think this is the 5th time in the 7-year history of the race. We've hosted starts there and we've also had finishes. So they swing around that left-hander, almost a continental hairpin bend there as they begin to gather themselves to sprint
for the top of the hill and the 4th place. Sigma Sport specialised on the left in the red and black, and maybe they're going to pick up the stray point.
It's good to see them at the front of the peloton. It's a big race for Sigma Sport Specialised to be in the Tour of Britain this year, and I think they're very pleased to be here.
And of course they've got in their lineup Matt Stevens, who's a real old warrior, but this isn't Stevens, this is one of his teammates. It's not Gallagher. In fact, it looks a bit like Kit Gillam. I'll go for Kit Gillam here for the 1 point. That'll be useful. Who knows, it may help him as the race continues to unfold over the next 8 days.
I think with the conditions today, I think the beard there was probably a giveaway as to who it was.
There's the result confirmed then. Powell's got the maximum points. Porch was in 2nd spot, Bauer 3rd, and Gillam 4th. Lovely shot of the riders here as they descend across the moors, and we'll take a break. Welcome back, and the good news is that the weather is improving. We've even seen a glimpse of the sun actually as the roads are starting to dry out. Now the field are heading towards the first of the 2nd cat climbs today, and this is the Trough of Bowland. It's a famous climb. It's one that was used regularly at the end of the milk race. What were you thinking when you planned the route over this climb on stage 1, Graham?
Well, one of the main reasons is we've got in Rochdale to Blackpool, as the crow flies, is a fairly short distance, so we had to try and make a loop round and to come into Blackpool. And Trough of Bowland and Westfield Towers are both climbs that we've used in the recent editions of the Tour of Britain in the opposite direction, and Westfield Towers is actually tougher in the opposite direction.
And there's only 6 miles between each one, isn't it?
Yes, it's virtually straight down after the Trough of Bowland, and you do the descent and it's straight back up again.
But the downside of it is there's still 35 miles roughly to go from the summit of the 3rd and final climb of the day, so plenty of time for regrouping.
There is, and also one of the things about this stage, it's got a little bit of everything, because the last 30 or 40 kilometres are on very, very flat roads, very much like Holland and Belgium, lots of right-hand changes of directions, and as we've seen, it is quite windy as well today, so that even the flat part of the route could play a part.
And we may even get a little bit of echelon racing forming when they are making their way towards the finish.
Yeah, and we see Port there still making the pace, and these 3 riders still working quite well together, although it remains to be seen how Jack Bauer will go on this climb, having lost contact on the previous climb.
I'm quite amazed at that, but you are right. Let's keep an eye on the developments over the climb here of the Kiwi champion. That, of course, is Bauer, who rides on the Enduro squad. But the field beginning to line out a little bit at the front here, thinning out, and that's always a sign that they are anxious to try and lift the pace. They probably want to bring it down. In fact, as I speak, it's confirmed at 3:21, so they're doing what we expected.
Yes, they let the gap go up to about 5 minutes, I think was the maximum lead, and then they started to put the tempo on, keep the breakaway at a safe distance, and we're just seeing Bauer just losing contact.
He's struggling, isn't he? I can tell you actually that is quite a hard climb, dare I tell you, but I rode the milk race a few times, and that was always the concluding climb, and believe me, it does hurt.
Yeah, it is a tough climb. I mean, it sort of goes up in stages in the first part of it, and then it just kicks up a little bit in the middle, and again eases up just over the top.
So you can see they're down now to 2, the leaders, and it is Port at the front, bringing the Dutchman along with him, and that's Powell's, who clinched first spot in the opening climb of the day. And Port quite happy then to pull the Dutchman along in the closing stages up to the line. And the field, well, they've started to bunch up again here, so maybe they've just eased off a tad.
Yeah, I think one of the things here that they probably want, they're not at this stage looking to attack or blow the field apart. They just want to make sure that they keep this breakaway in chaseable distance after the climbs.
I am impressed with the crowds that have turned out, and as you pointed out earlier on, despite the bad weather, they are really eager to support this Tour of Britain. Well, we're looking at the head of the main field here, and you can see it is Team Sky right on the front. They're keen to put down a serious performance here in this race, as Wouter Pauwels now from the Netherlands and Vakon Soleil looks to the line and the summit to try and add more points to the 4 that he got in the first climb. Dear play more, and he's got it easy, snaps it up, another 6 points, so he's amassed 10 so far for the first 2 climbs, and Port with that second place got a 5 to add to the 3 got in the first one. He's second, but there it is, the first 3 over, and obviously Bauer, who's tailed off at the moment, picking up 3rd spot.
A great shot of the peloton there, going through the valley up towards the summit of this trough of Bowland. It's a really spectacular climb, and even there you can see it still looks great even in the bad weather.
You are right, beautiful part of the world this. Then they'll have to be cautious on the descent, because we did say earlier that conditions are improving, but there are going to be wet patches around, and those conditions are probably the most dangerous.
Yes, well, we've got some greasy patches on the descent here, but it is a fairly straightforward descent, and it shouldn't cause too many problems.
And I'm interested to see who will lead the peloton over the summit of the climb, because one of the previous shots we got was the evidence of 3 or 4 of the Team Sky riders.
Yeah, they're just chasing the breakaway down, and I mean, as much as anything, they're here, obviously here to do well overall, but they've also got a very good sprinter in Greg Henderson, so there's it's a sort of two-pronged attack.
Certainly is, and Sky started today with Geraint Thomas, Stephen Cummings, Russell Downing, Matthew Heyman, Greg Henderson and Bradley Wiggins. Well, the demands of the climb evident here, and this is one of the team rally men that's losing contact, Peter Smith. He really does look laboured as he tries to get those pedals round.
Yeah, he is struggling a little bit. It's going to be very difficult for him to get back on with the straight descent straight after this climb, and another climb immediately after that. So he's got maybe a few lonely kilometres ahead of him.
Well, they're 35 miles in all, actually, Graham, so he could lose a heap of time, couldn't he? But the two, well, they're not bothered about waiting for Bauer now, and they're getting on with the job in hand. It is Team Sky still at the front, heading on towards the line and looking for the points, but the points of course will be purely academic. They're not bothered about that King of the Mountains competition on this first stage. They're keen to try and get the break back, to try and set it up for their sprinters.
Yeah, what they're doing is they're keeping a steady tempo on the climb there. They don't want to lose any riders or really split the field at this stage, and it's not a particularly high tempo.
Team Sky, of course, could do with some assistance, and I won't be surprised if that doesn't happen shortly, because when you look at some of the other big squads, they've got no representation at the front. Columbia, there's no riders there, and of course Garmin, so these are the outfits you would expect to start to give Sky some assistance.
I see the peloton just going over the King of the Mountains summit now.
Well, a lot of the riders here will be very pleased to see the back of the Trough of Bowland. There's just one more climb to go, and that's Westfield Towers, and my suspicions have been confirmed when I said I wonder where the Sky riders are likely to finish at the summit of that climb. They were actually 4th, 5th and 6th. Cummings 4th, Heyman 5th and Geraint Thomas 6th. Now you can just see in the distance Bauer, so he's still actually in with a chance of bridging back to the other two escapees.
Yeah, he's in danger though, maybe catching them just at the foot of the final climb and then maybe getting dropped again, so hopefully he can catch them fairly soon.
Not exactly the best scenario, that, Graham.
No, it's nothing more demoralising than getting back onto a breakaway or a bunch before, and then he goes back up another climb.
So Jack Bauer not having the best of days. Okay, he is clear of the main peloton, but he's suffering on the climbs, the New Zealand champion. Now then, the Sky team are still at the front, and of course they're riding in their new colours today with the band across the front green as opposed to the pale blue. So are they allowed to do that?
Yeah, matching bikes. Well, I mean, I'm not quite sure of what's happened. They may have had that jersey registered, and you know, we've seen teams change their kits throughout seasons before.
I mean, aesthetically, I think it looks very smart indeed. Now there they are still at the front, the road's narrowing, a little bit bumpy in places as well, and look at this, Jack Bauer once again has joined the two right at the foot of the 3rd and final climb.
Yeah, this is the climb up to Westfield Towers. This is the most difficult part of this climb, is the early part, and then the final couple of kilometres really are an exposed road. It sort of like goes on forever, fairly straight and very, very exposed.
So Bauer, he's been playing catch-up, hasn't he, ever since they entered the Trough of Bowland. But once again, we get the shot at the front, and it is Team Sky. There they are, turning the screw and looking pretty good. That's Cummings and Geraint Thomas in his white national champs jersey with the red and blue bands around the front. And you're looking there at number 4, and that's Matthew Heyman, the Australian, on the Team Sky squad.
Yeah, looking very strong at the front of the peloton. And I certainly think the team have come into this race in good form, and I should be looking out for them a lot over the next few days.
I think you're right. And Cummings, of course, in that Team Sky squad, finished 2nd overall in the Tour of Britain when it finally wound up in Liverpool.
Yeah, and his sort of hometown really, or his Merseyside anyway.
So there they are at the front, big strong boys cutting the pace out, and they'll be trimming that advantage back with every pedal rev. And I feel sure that the 3 ahead have probably received instructions. Are they still wired for sound?
Well, I mean, they're still allowed to be wide for sound. I'm not sure how that's going to change in the future, but he's certainly got an earpiece in.
Yeah, so there we are. So they will have been told, the three at the front, that I think your escape is not going to last much longer. It's been trimmed back due to the injection of pace at the front by this squad. And look at Cummings, I tell you what, he's in a mean mood today.
Yeah, it's a very good rider, Steve. Certainly capable of doing tempo for long periods of time on the front of the peloton.
Well, Bauer's gone backwards once again, and I think he's likely to be the first one that the peloton pick up. I'm just wondering now how much longer these two can stay clear, but Bauer is going back again, so obviously from this we can speculate that climbing is not exactly Bauer's greatest asset.
No, well, he's quite a heavily built lad, and as we've seen before earlier in the year, he's very good at the sort of flatter and certainly city centre racing.
He is, he's a good sprinter, and of course he figured strongly in the Tour series that we covered earlier this year. So, no changes for the suspects at the front. It is still Sky there doing the good work, but on the right nearest to us, it's Powells, the Dutchman, who's already topped the first two climbs in #1 spot. Now then, is he going to make it a clean sweep with this one? They're getting ever nearer the top.
Yeah, still Team Sky on the front of the peloton, but I think what we've got here is got quite a strong wind blowing, sort of almost cross headwind, so that the bunch is still pretty much all across the road.
And of course that's not going to help Bauer, is it? Because he's enveloped between the two groups now.
No, he's in difficult terrain.
There it is, the top. They don't sprint for it. It's just academic as they roll across the line. But the situation of that is that Powells picks up another 6. Good day's work for the Dutchman. That means he's amassed 16 points, and he will be the first receiver of the King of the Mountains jersey. So we'll look forward to that moment at the presentation in Blackpool.
Here we're seeing the peloton still on the climb there. It looks as though it's flat, but it is, believe me, it is still dragging on all the way up to the top.
I think some of those climbs, the deceptive ones, are really harder, aren't they?
They are, and you know, it feels like the climb or the summit's never going to come. It sort of like goes on forever.
Well, Port at the front, anxious to get on with it here. He's keen to keep the rhythm high. He must believe that they've still got a chance of staying away to Blackpool. I don't think really that's going to happen as they once again come round this left-hander cautiously. Yeah. Bowery's going backwards, the peloton are getting nearer to him, and now Powell's at the moment, he's struggling to stay in the wheel, but I just think he's giving himself a little bit of breathing space for safety.
Yeah, he's been a little bit cautious there, and do we just see the peloton going over the summit of Westfield Towers?
And there are the first 3 places then for you on the 3rd and final climb of the day. And just to reiterate my earlier comment, Powell's of Vacances is the early King of the Mountains.
Welcome back. Now the 2 remaining riders of that 3-man break, Vanderpoels and Richie Port, held the chasers at bay through the 2 final sprints of the day. Port taking maximum points at Cockerham, and again Poels allowing him to clean up at Stalmine. So, with those 2 both assured of their respective jerseys, it was job done. Richie Port, the last of the 2 to be swallowed up by the Sky-tipped bunch, and it all came back together.
Just over 5 kilometres to go now, and the teams that have got fast sprinters will be trying to get to the front to lead them out. Good approach to the finish, this one.
Yeah, it's a very straightforward approach. There's just literally in about the last 7 kilometres, just 1 right-hand turn at 2 kilometres from the finish onto the seafront.
And at the back is Team Columbia. You would normally see them at the front as they're approaching the finish, but I can tell you that they've actually been waiting and pacing Andre Greipel, their big sprinter, back to the main field because he had a puncture with 7Ks to go.
He has, and he is back in the peloton now. He's obviously got to work his way back to the front to stand any chance, but whether that's taken the sting out of his legs, we'll have to wait to see.
And also the sting out of his lead-out train.
That's very true, but I think he's had a little bit of help here. It is a very strong headwind as they come in towards the seafront, so you can see the bunch there right across the road.
Well, that's Stephen Cummings right at the back, wearing race number 2, so he's obviously not one of the riders that they've earmarked to help their sprinter, Greg Henderson.
No, Steve Cummings has probably done a lot more work in the chase of the breakaway riders earlier on.
Now, a lone attack here. 1 rider trying to go away, but to try and hold a peloton that are thirsting for a victory at bay is an impossibility. Was one of the riders of the ISD Neri team, but he's been pulled back, so it's status quo. They're all beginning to line out.
Yeah, a little bit of hesitancy there. There's one or two riders looking round to see who's going to take up the pacemaking, but it is into a strong wind. There's a Saxo bank coming up there.
Sorry, Graham, that was one of the riders actually of the Colnago in the blue that was looking back. They've got a good sprinter, their team leader, Manuel Belletti. He is a stage winner on the Giro d'Italia this year, but now Colombia are beginning to assert their authority at the front.
Yeah, well, they've managed to obviously get Greipel back up to the front, but we'll have to wait and see if he can still pull this sprint off.
They've also got another good sprinter as well in the shape of Mark Renshaw, who is normally the lead-out man, of course, for Cavendish.
Yeah, and just see 4 kilometres to go, and you can see riders from Cervelo just getting near the front of the peloton.
And Cervelo, of course, have got a very good sprinter in the shape of Heinrich Hausler, a Tour de France stage winner, and also the man that finished second by a whisker in Milan-San Remo to Mark Cavendish.
Yeah, and he won't forget that second place in a hurry, will he?
He won't, and of course he's back after injury. In fact, I think he had some knee surgery about July time, so he's now on the comeback trail. So that's Hausler, the likely sprinter then for Cervelo. Now coming through in the blue here, it looks like the team of Colnago, so they're working hard, of course, for that man I mentioned, Belletti. There they are, right in the centre of the field. But nobody at the moment has managed to sort of get into the gutter and start to stretch the pace out.
No, I think one of the things to watch out for here is when they do turn onto the seafront, the wind's going to be blowing in off the sea, and this could really start to string the peloton.
Well, there's Cummings, you can just see over the far side, and he's got with him one of the riders from that Colnago CSF Inox squad, and they are beginning to take their positions up near the front here now. And also Team Sky are up there. Sky will be so keen to try and get Greg Henderson in the mix here for the charge to the line. Henderson, such a great sprinter, a Commonwealth Games gold medalist on the track, and of course he is a man that can win stages as well in races such as this. He's got stage victories to his credit in the Eneco Tour.
Yeah, and just still seeing the Colnago CSF squad on the front, so they obviously fancied their chances here. And look, we're just about to see the Motor Point marshals past the boys get up there.
You're right, and I have seen one or two shadows on the road there as well, Graham, which tells me that the sun's come out, so drying conditions here in the finishing funnel in Blackpool. Now then, the question is, who's going to cover themselves in glory for this one? They're setting themselves up well here, aren't they? And it's all about getting that right approach to the line. 2 kilometres remaining.
Yeah, we're right onto the seafront now, and it's literally just almost straight running all the way to the line, just a slight curve before the finish.
So no danger at all here. It's all a matter of finding that right line, and the squad of Colnago was still on the front, but they've swung over, and now it's Cervelo coming through, and that's the crouching style of Roger Hammond, and it's Roger Hammond with Jeremy Hunt in his wheel, trying to set it up for the man we mentioned, Hausler, but Hausler's not the third man back. In fact, it looks like the jersey of Geraint Thomas, the British road race champion.
Yeah, and also Russell Downing well placed at the front there, and then behind that we've got the HTC Columbia team up.
Yeah, that's right. So Thomas has got Russell Downing with him, and of course Downing can finish very strongly indeed, but they're going to have to keep an eye on the Columbia squad, who are looking menacingly strong, and this is being set up for Greipel, and it is getting near the finish now. 1 kilometre to go.
It's the Team Sky who are taking up the pacemaking now, and they're looking to work for Greg Henderson, who's had a great year as well, several wins.
So there we are. The lead Sky rider has just swung over, and now the head of the race as they charge for the line. Past the funfair on the right is Geraint Thomas, the national road champion, a man, of course, who won a gold medal in Beijing for the Team Pursuit. And it's Thomas now doing the good work here, trying to set up the sprint for Greg Henderson. Next to Thomas will be Downing taking over the pace, and finally hoping, of course, to launch Henderson for the victory. It's getting quite tense now as we're moving into the closing stages. One rider on the left trying to find his way through, and also in the blue, that's Belletti of Colnago, the Italian, and the Italian's really gone for this now. Belletti looks as though he might get it, but on the right, oh, Greipel takes it with consummate ease right on the line. Belletti second, and Henderson of Sky finishing third. Well, he's got power to spare, and if my reckoning is right, I reckon that's the 20th victory this year for Andre Greipel. What a finisher. He has got so much strength, hasn't he? And he timed that sprint to perfection.
Andre Greipel then first over the line for HTC Columbia, and another example of the strength of their team, towing him back into contention in the closing kilometres.
We were pretty lucky today. I had a puncture with 8 Ks to go, and the whole team waited for me, so yeah, I think it was a victory for the team, and I'm really proud that they trusted in me and I could finish it off.
The second of 2 punctures for Andre Greipel, the winner of stage 1. Second place went to the largely untouted Manuel Belletti of Colnago. Team Sky slowish off the mark, with a third for Greg Henderson and a 9th place for Rochdale. And what Mark Cavendish continues to do in Spain, his Columbia teammate has taken to doing on the streets of Britain. That is why they're the world's top team. Richie Porte's attacking ride landed him in the sprinter's jersey. Not exactly familiar knitwear for the Aussie time trialist.
I'd like to do well in GC. No time trial here for me, so I have to go up the road and take a sprinter's jersey. I've never done that before, so couldn't ride out of sight in the dark night, so I'm not so fast. But no, look, it was good. We worked well out there together, so it was a good day.
Wout Poels of the ambitious Vacances Soleil team wears the first King of the Mountains jersey, taking maximum points over all 3 of today's categorised climbs. And the yellow jersey presented by Bikeability remains firmly in the grip, at least for now, of HTC Columbia, even in the absence of serial Tour of Britain stage winner Edvald Boasson Hagen. The first shufflings of the pack then, and the time bonuses hand Greipel a 7-second lead over the chasers, including the surprise name of Manuel Belletti. But it'll be demanding for the big German to hang on to that kind of lead over the lumps and the bumps to come. There was a little gap of 3 seconds at the finish line too. 14 riders made the right side of that split.
It was my goal to win a stage here, and all the rest is on the top, and I look day by day.
The gorilla in the mist, Andre Greipel, perhaps Dean Downing, not the hardest prediction we've ever had to make, because a rider of his class and calibre should win a race like that, shouldn't he?
Yeah, Andre Greipel's a world-class sprinter, so we predicted that at the start, so, great result for him and his team. Yeah, now I know, Dean, you sort of snaffled yourself onto the Team Sky bus and had a little look round. What did you find out? What did your brother tell you about their lead out? Yeah, Russ was just saying that maybe they could have had an extra pair of legs at the end. They did a lot of work to bring the 3-man breakaway, so yeah, they didn't muck up, but maybe they needed an extra rider. It's interesting stuff. I mean, for a while it was an interesting break because it had Richie Porte in it, very, very decent rider, and just for a while you wondered whether that might get away. Yeah, Richie Porte, I was surprised to see him in the breakaway so early on stage 1, and also Jack Bauer was in there, and I had a chat with him at the end, and Jack was hoping that Sky and HTC Columbia would be fighting against who's going to chase, but that never happened. I think they must have joined forces, and it was never to be for the 3-man breakaway. Yeah, I think those 2 teams in particular are here to do business, aren't they? Richie Porte's teammate, incidentally, Johnny Bellis, as you will have gathered, had to abandon early on. Of course, Johnny is coming back from that very serious injury last year, and this is what Richie Porte had to say about his teammate.
Johnny's an inspiration, he's a good kid, and we will miss him because he's good to have around too for morale, and I mean, hopefully he sticks around because he's just such a good little fella around, and it's a shame, but I mean, in all reality, I don't think he expected to get through it. So, but I mean, next year he's in the right environment, good team, so that's not the last you'll see of Johnny Bellis either. He'll be back.
Absolutely, I'm sure everyone in the cycling world would agree with those sentiments. Dean, you've ridden against and alongside Johnny Bellis. He's a super talent, isn't he? Yeah, he's a very talented rider. I rode with the national team with Johnny before the Beijing Olympics, and not only is he a great guy, but he's a natural talented bike rider, so hope for a speedy recovery for Johnny. Absolutely, and just before we close off today, Dino, you did say if a British rider isn't going to win the overall, it'll be Andre Greipel. But on reflection, is that right? I mean, how long is he really going to hang around in the yellow jersey? Yeah, we did say that, didn't we? But there's some hard stages to come up. Tomorrow is harder with a Stoke finish, and then the stage 3 and 4. So maybe he'll relinquish it when he gets to the hills. Yeah, absolutely. Of course, Stoke was the home of Edvald Boasson Hagen. I think he's won there twice on the Tour of Britain, but it'll be a very different proposition tomorrow for Andre Greipel. Well, thank you very much, Dean. Thanks to Blackpool, and thanks for watching our strange little end of pier show. And we'll see you all at the same time tomorrow.